Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. We're going to mainly talk about Joe Biden and how he's going after the guns. Basically, the Democratic Party, the leftists that control it, are after your guns. There's just no doubt about it. They are literally trying to make the Second Amendment a moot point. So we're going to talk about that because Biden is being pressured to either do some executive actions or some legislative actions, and we're going to get into all of that in just a moment. But before we go any further, I always have to talk about our sponsors. Our number one sponsor, BDU, otherwise known as Big Daddy Unlimited. Yes, Big Daddy Unlimited is your go-to Second Amendment headquarters. I say that because they absolutely not only are selling you guns and ammunition delivered directly to your door at factory direct pricing, but 100,000 other items related to the Second Amendment, from support equipment to tactical gear to survival gear to even swag. You can get all of that through BDU. The way you get to them is look above our show. Well, no matter where you're watching the show, when you're watching it, look above the video. You'll see a description of what we're talking about, and you'll see some links, one of which is to our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited. Click on that, and they are your Second Amendment headquarters, because not only do they sell you that full line of products I was just talking about at factory direct pricing, but they literally are defending your Second Amendment rights on a daily basis. So check them out. Then we have patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. I'm rocking one of their shirts today. Remember the promo code. It's essentially our initials, John Martin Talks. JMT is the promo code for 20% off. You can get beautiful wear like I'm wearing now. You can help. They'll help you set up charity events and everything else. They're a total fulfillment store. Check them out, patriotthreads.org. Then Recoil TV. Recoil TV is now we're partnering with them through BDU, and we are archived on their YouTube channel. We have our own YouTube channel, spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks. We've been having some issues with it. I believe that we have all of those resolved. So you can always go and watch our show live on our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks, or you can watch it rebroad or taped on there about 8 hours later is when they normally do it. Check it out, John Martin Talks. But Recoil TV is a great go-to source if you are interested in seeing things like product demonstrations, demo videos on the latest weaponry, and all of that kind of thing. You cannot go wrong with Recoil TV. They have apps in the App Store, Google Play, and all of that type of stuff. So check Amazon as well. Check it out, Recoil TV. All right, let's get into this. This is a Politico story. Biden considers regulating ghost guns, other executive actions to curb gun violence. We got to curb gun violence. Now, I guess gun violence is determined as any violence committed with a gun. And we're going to get into some details about that. But before we go any further, in case you don't understand where Joe Biden is coming from, I'm going to play you two videos back to back from the 2020 Democratic primary. One of them is Beto O'Rourke at the 2020 debates when there were still like 100 people in it. I think maybe 20 actually. Be honest. We want to be honest. We don't want to give misinformation. But Beto O'Rourke telling you in no uncertain terms that he's ready to get your guns, and listen to the applause. Then we're going to play after that a second video with Joe Biden basically telling Beto that you're going to be my guy on the gun issue, and we'll come back and discuss each of those separately. So we'll start out with Beto himself, and then El Presidente. It doesn't do my heart any good to say that, but it is the fact at the moment we're dealing with Joe Biden. So let's play the first video, Beto O'Rourke. Check him out.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow allowed to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
Hell yes. I mean, he's excited. When asked that question about taking the guns, man, he doesn't mince words. I guess I respect him at least for that. He's not trying to sugarcoat things. He's telling you, hell yes, I'm coming. Yippee-ki-yay, buddy. I'm coming for your guns. That's old Paco. I call him that because he reminds me, this is a guy named Robert Francis O'Rourke, and he calls himself Beto. He's ashamed of the name his mama gave him. I mean, give me a break here. But Beto says, hell yes, keep that we're coming for your guns. And then a few months later, when Biden actually was on the, essentially got the nomination, won the primaries, Beto was endorsing him. And listen to what Biden says to the hell yes guy, I'm coming for your guns. Listen to what Biden says in his own words. Check it out.
I want to make something clear. I'm going to guarantee you this is not the last year seeing this guy. You're going to take care of the gun problem with me. You're going to be the one who leads this effort. I'm counting on you. I'm counting on you. We need you badly. The state needs you. The country needs you. You're the best. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We need Beto. Beto is safe. You know, whatever happened to Paco, man? Where's Beto now? How come he's not up for a cabinet position? Well, I can tell you exactly why. It's not because he wasn't loyal enough to Biden. It's not because he wasn't on the right side of the gun grab issue. Obviously, he was. It's because he doesn't check enough boxes, or he checks the wrong boxes. Think about it. Beto, as far as I know, is a white dude. He's not Hispanic. He's apparently straight. He's married, I think, with kids. And, you know, he's, like I say, he's got the white skin. He checks all the wrong boxes. In order to be in the cabinet, you got to be a woman. Maybe he should just say, hey, I'm a woman today, and maybe he'd get in. But Beto is not in because he checks not the right boxes, but the wrong boxes. You tell me where I'm wrong on that. All right, let's get into the meat of this story. The White House is weighing a number of gun safety proposals, as it looks to deliver on President Joe Biden's campaign promises. But some activists are upset. They almost always, if they're a Democrat activist, they're always pissed off, right? Are upset that after 1 month in office, the administration has yet to set a firm timeline to provide specifics about its overarching plan. So the activists are upset. They're upset because they hadn't grabbed your guns in a month that Biden's been up there. You know, on day one, they should have had the gun confiscation units out, right? But I like how they couch these words, man. Gun safety proposals. Now, doesn't that sound nice? Who could be against gun safety proposals? I mean, I've told you this before, but if I say it bears repeating that. You know, I remember when I had to take a gun safety course when I was about 13 or 14 years old. Something I'd been hunting. I had my own gun. My daddy gave me my own gun when I was like 8 years old. Go out squirrel hunting, son. You know, but I remember the NRA put it on. And the reason why we had to attend it is because the state of Florida and many other states, I think, basically at the same time, had passed some type of law that in order to get a hunting license, you had to go through a gun safety course. And I remember, like I say, this is in Hawthorne, Florida, man. This is a place where when I was going to high school, everybody had a gun in their truck during hunting season, usually prominently displayed in the parking lot at the school. And I can remember people taking their guns out in the parking lot and showing like what they'd gotten for Christmas or whatever, that kind of thing. I think times have definitely changed. But I remember us in that gun safety class, we're all looking around like, why are we here? I don't really understand it, because if you're new to the show, first of all, howdy, how are you? You're in the right place now. I'm not that politically correct, I don't think so. If you're looking for that, you're in the wrong place, but hang around, you might actually learn something. We battle ignorance and apathy daily. But I was telling some people just the other day this again, you know, when I was growing up, we never even thought of the Second Amendment in that sense. Because guns were just a way of life. They were just a tool, believe it or not, like a shovel. I mean, we knew what guns would do. We'd all shot a watermelon or two, and most of us had hunted, and so we knew what guns were about, but we never gave it a second thought about our Second Amendment rights. It was just, we're in America. We're in the South. We're in a small town. Guns, baby. I mean, I never really gave it a second thought. But now you better be, if you're someone who believes in the Second Amendment, it better be one of your first thoughts. Just saying. Among the executive actions under consideration by the administration is one that require buyers of so-called ghost guns, homemade or makeshift firearms that lack serial numbers, or undergo background checks, according to 3 people who have spoken to the White House about their plans. Now, is this a huge issue? I have to admit, I don't know a lot about the so-called category of ghost guns. I do know people that you can purchase basically the parts for like an AK-47 and literally assemble them at home. You can do that, and the people are into that. I'm not sure if that's exactly what they're talking about. Some of you guys that are, more, as they quote, gun enthusiasts, let me know about that. But then they're also talking about these so-called ghosts or makeshift firearms. Now, I know you can even 3D print firearms now, right? A plastic gun. So I'm not sure exactly what all they're talking about there. But my big question, first of all, would be the bottom line. Is this really a problem? Is there a big problem with ghost guns, however you want to categorize them? Are people committing a bunch of crimes? I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I have yet to hear a story or cover a story where someone used a, quote, ghost gun in a crime. So I don't know about that. I don't know. Is that a real problem? But I know a guy who is a problem. We talked a great deal about this dude the other day in a different story. Senator Richard Blumenthal. Now, this is the stolen valor dude, man. So I got to tell you right off the bat, anything he says is like, to me, has zero credibility. But I give him credit on this. I am sure that this combat veteran wants to get your guns. So I take him at his word on that. But Senator Blumenthal, who spoke to the White House in the last week, said he recommended the administration take executive actions to close the so-called Charleston loophole. And we're going to come back and expand on that in a second. Charleston loophole that allows a gun to be transferred from licensed gun dealers before a completed background check. Ooh, man, the way they write that, it sounds like, oh, the Charleston loophole. So they're giving people guns that haven't even had a background check. Oh, that's got to be sinister, right? But not really, if you actually know what's happening. Basically, what the Charleston loophole is, so they call it is, and I'm not sure exactly why they call it that name. That's a side, but I know what it means. Essentially, right now, if you are a person that is going to walk into, and every place a little bit different, but if you go into a federally licensed arms gun shop and you want to purchase a gun, you have to wait for a background check, right? I mean, most places are like that. So the deal is, with the Charleston, quote, loophole, essentially you have to wait 3 days. And if your background check is not finished or nothing pops up that says you can't own it, like you're a convicted felon or something, then after 3 days, you can get the gun. And that sounds like, okay, well, that's expeditious. Why not a week? Well, that might sound reasonable. But one thing I have learned about progressives, regardless of the issue, Second Amendment just happens to be the one we're talking about today. You can't give these progressives an inch because they will take a mile. So if you were to say, okay, 3 days is not long enough to do a check, we need 5 or we need 2 weeks, whatever. That might actually be reasonable, but you cannot have a reasonable conversation with these people. It's not possible because, as I say, if you give them an inch, they're going to take 20 miles. Basically, the reason why you have the Charleston, quote, loophole is to make sure that the FBI just don't by de facto take away your gun rights. Because think about this. If they had an open-ended amount of time to do the background check, well, when would they do it? Check the clock. It might be 6 months. It might be 6 years before they do a background check on you. So if you don't put some type of time constraint on them to get these background checks done, you would never be able to buy a gun, which is the reason why they want to change that. It is not because they want an extended period, a reasonable time, 5 days, even a month, 2 weeks, whatever might be reasonable. They don't want to eliminate, or they want to eliminate the I want to make sure I say it right. The Charleston loophole, because they want to make sure you never get a gun. That's what this is all about. Gun control, from a liberal's perspective, does not mean controlling guns. It means determining who can have them. You can have them if you're guarding Nancy Pelosi at the Capitol, but if you're guarding your home, like the McCloskeys did out in St. Louis, you can't have a gun. So gun control is not about who manufactures guns. It's not about any of that stuff. It is about controlling who can actually own a gun. And believe me, if you're listening to this show and you're just an average Joe six-pack citizen, you're not in that category. Trust me on that. So let's move along. Instead, the White House is likely to stick with its campaign promises, like they showed with Beto, get your guns, promise to support legislation, close the Charleston loophole. One of the reasons why they're pushing them, just so you know, to be executive order and bypass the legislature is because they know that there's not enough votes in the U.S. Senate right now to do much gun control legislation. But as well as measures designed to keep guns away from people believed to be a danger to themselves or others, and to establish safety storage standards for firearms according to one of the people familiar with the plans. A danger to themselves and others. See, all this flowery language. Who could be opposed to restricting access to guns to someone who's a danger to themselves and others? The red flag laws is what they call them. And on paper, they sound somewhat reasonable. But in reality, the red flag laws, man, they better, if you hear the term red flag or danger to themselves, it better put up a red flag for you, because you'd be the government determining who can actually own guns. And think about this. Right now, what would be a red flag to some people? How about a Trump bumper sticker? How about a Trump sign still in your yard? How about waving the Confederate flag? Or the American, here's the thing, the American flag. If you wave the American flag right now, you might actually be an insurrectionist. Have you thought about that? I mean, people wait. If you think about this, if right now, right here where I'm at in Gainesville, Florida, if at the main intersection by the university where they always have all kind of protests, if a dude, especially an old white dude like me, if I got up there wearing what I'm wearing right now and started waving an American flag, nothing else, no signs, no Trump hat, no nothing, just an American flag, I guarantee you I'd be accosted by people who were calling me a white supremacist for waving an American flag right here. Right? It does my heart no good to say that, but it's a fact. So when you hear these red flag laws, and Republicans, including, I do believe, our two senators here from the great state of Florida, Rubio and Rick Scott, are actually pushing red flag laws. It sounds reasonable, but it's not. Caution. You cannot give these people an inch. I wish you could. I would love to have a reasonable conversation, a sane conversation about gun laws. I got no issue with that. It's not possible. I'm telling you, these progressives, I was going to say this to the end, I'm sure I'll repeat it. Progressives, one thing I've learned about dealing with them on a very personal level, you can't reason with them, you can't deal with them, you can't negotiate with them. The only thing you can do is defeat them at the ballot box. And they carry everything to an extreme. If you give an inch, they'll take a mile. Think about the abortion issue. It doesn't matter what side of that issue you're on. It used to be like under Clinton's, it was supposed to be like safe, legal, and rare. Where is it now? Where's the debate now? It's the debate on whether the late Rush Limbaugh, God rest his soul, said, the fourth trimester. Remember Northam, blackface Northam, and governor of Virginia said, well, we get the babies born, we try to make him comfortable, then we have a little bit of conversation about what to do after the baby's born, and then possibly go whack off with their heads. These progressives take everything to the extreme. You can't give them an inch, man. I want you to listen to this next paragraph, and this is from Senator Blumenthal, the stolen valor dude. If you steal valor, he'll definitely steal your guns. But Blumenthal said this, and believe me, listen to this short statement, but it is very telling. It encapsulates what we're up against. He says, my view is the bigger and bolder, the better on gun violence prevention because we have a unique window of opportunity. The gun grab is real, ladies and gentlemen. They are going to try to take your guns as quickly as possible because take them at their word. Take these progressives, I tell you, at their word all the time. You don't have to guess where they're coming. I'm going to read this to you again. Blumenthal, who is a U.S. Senator from Connecticut, says, my view is the bigger and bolder, the better on gun violence prevention because we have a unique window of opportunity. Now is the time, is what he's saying. The White House has held several meetings on gun violence with prominent groups pushing for gun restrictions, community-based groups asking for billions of dollars, always wanting money, of dollars in program funding and survivors of gun violence. So these groups are asking for money. And they're probably going to get it. Remember, what was it, Bloomberg, man, he spends millions of dollars trying to elect people to office, and he's done a pretty good job of it, other than himself, obviously, to come and get the guns, spending millions of dollars. So they talk about the NRA and other groups, how much they spend. It's a pittance compared to what some of these gun grabbing groups spend. But I want to read you some statistics here, and I'm using the Brady organization. This is or Brady, I think it is, the Brady organization, which was the gentleman that was shot at the same time he was in the administration of Reagan, and he was shot and paralyzed. I think he's since succumbed and died. But they're anti-gun. Okay, hardly a right-wing organization, and they're later on quoted in this article. But I went to their organization just to pull up a few statistics, some interesting stats on quote gun violence. There. All right, let's get into this, and you can add. And I know these numbers are pretty close to accurate because I've seen it in other groups as well. But according to the Brady organization, 38,826 people die from gun violence every year. That's approximately. I think this was in 2019, but close enough. Of that 38,826 who die from gun violence, 23,437 die from gun suicide. About 4,000 actually try it and are not that successful. I don't know how you not commit suicide with a gun, but anyway. 38,000 people die from gun violence. 23,000, well over 50% of those die from gun suicide. But so to me, maybe I'm wrong, but if someone shoots themselves, I'm not advocating suicide. To me, I've dealt with that. I've had close people that committed suicide. It's a terrible thing. It devastates the people that are left. So, what do they say? Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It's devastating. So I'm not even questioning that. But to throw that in as gun violence, along with saying someone getting murdered, to me is just not fair. Now, one death could be one too many, but we have to keep some perspective in this. We're a country of 350 million people. So if you do the math on this, and you say that 39,000 people die from gun violence, but over half of them are suicide, gun violence is not the problem statistically. Now, I know if it's your loved one, it doesn't matter what the stats are. I get it. And I'm not saying it's not a problem, but it's mostly a criminal problem, not a Second Amendment problem. But there's a ton of statistics. I just want to go over a couple more. 521 of the people who were killed in quote gun violence were killed by legal intervention. Legal intervention, which basically means law enforcement officers or someone using a firearm to defend themselves or their home in a legal fashion. So some type of legal intervention. So 521 people are killed by legal intervention. People who are murdered, which could be a broad category, 14,062 are murdered. To me, that's the figure that really matters here. That's the figure that matters. And no amount of gun control is really going to change that, because the vast majority of murders are committed by people who obtain their guns illegally. All these gun control issues, if you think about them, that have pretty much ever been proposed are to control access and how you use firearms and other related materials from law-abiding citizens. None of them address the actual issue of people being murdered, because there's very few people murdered by someone legally owning a gun. It happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but most often in those cases, some type of domestic issue. So, but listen to this next little paragraph. The meetings, these activist meetings in the White House, are being led by Susan Rice, Director of Domestic Policy Council, and Cedric Richmond, Director of the Office of Public Engagement. Now, there's no bias there, right? Do you know anything about Miss Rice? She was a big figure. She's the one that says, about Benghazi, told all those lies about Benghazi. Susan Rice with Obama, and Cedric Richmond was a huge supporter of Obama while he was in the legislature, while he was a member of the House. So there's no bias in that group whatsoever, right? I'd probably rather have Beto than either one of them two. Poor old Beto, he can't get around the fact that he's a white dude. And straight. I mean, if you're going to be a white dude, you at least got to be gay to have any shot in the Democratic Party, right? A White House official said that Biden is considering every tool at our disposal, every tool, except one important one, including executive action. So he's not going to wait around. And is looking at investing in a community violence program. What exactly is a community violence program? Requiring background checks. We already have background checks. This thing about background checks is essentially a big lie. If you're trying to buy a handgun, any kind of gun legally, pretty much everywhere in the United States, you're going through a background check now. But, they try to drag it out. We talked about that. Banning assault weapons. And, oh, by the way, an AR-15 is not an assault rifle. It's who makes it, man. But banning weapons in high-capacity magazines and repealing gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. This is something Biden is working on big time. I talked about it last week. Check out our podcast. Go to John Martin Talks YouTube, also Recoil TV, all that kind of stuff. Check it out. You can also catch us, by the way, on America's Voice News. We're not on there live, but America's Voice News is a great alternative to the mainstream media. They're on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV. They have free apps on Android, iPhone, channel 219, Dish Network, and the Pluto channel. If you go to their streaming service, click on that, look at the shows tab to your left, click on that, and you can see our show archived on America's Voice News. We're grateful to be that. But I want to play a couple of videos here because, first of all, it says here, every tool at our disposal for that, for gun violence, not gun control, gun violence. But how about all those people, over 14,000 that were murdered? What is Joe Biden doing about that? Well, one thing he's clearly not for is funding police departments, because they had all this defund police and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not for defunding the police. And what did old Kamala Harris say? I'm for reimagining. And Biden is for, which you'll see in this video, for redirecting funds. Let me put it in perspective that maybe you can understand. Let's say your boss calls you in and says, "Hey, Joe, hey, John, I've been paying you 50 grand for this position. Now, we just hired Sally over here. And so in order to hire Sally, I'm going to have to reimagine your salary or redirect some of it over to Sally." Now, I would think you would understand pretty quickly that means you're going to be making less money, right? So whenever they talk about reimagining or redirecting, it means the police departments are getting less money. These progressives, and remember, Biden said if he was elected, he'd be the most progressive president in history. Take these guys at their word. He clearly says in this video that he is for redirecting. I guess that's not defunding, but you listen to it and you tell me. Maybe I'm wrong. Check it out.
They don't know anybody. They become the enemy. They're supposed to be protecting these people. So my generic point is
But do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that we also
absolutely. Absolutely. We can redirect some funding. So Biden is going to redirect police funding. I guess that's a way of reimagining. And then this idea, let me get to this point because I haven't talked about this much lately, but if I say it, it bears repeating. It says here, this is what the White House says they're looking at. Banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and repealing gun manufacturers' immunity. Let me say about that gun manufacturers' immunity real quick. What they're talking about is basically this. Let me put it in a way you might understand it. Let's say that Ford Motor Company, you buy an F-150. I'm not advertising for them, just saying. And you drive that thing, you're drinking and driving, and you run over somebody and kill them. Do you really think that Ford Motor Company is responsible for the fact that you were drinking and killed somebody in your truck? And now, if it's some kind of manufacturer default, that's different. But basically what they're saying with this gun manufacturer is they're saying someone could commit a crime with a gun and then turn around and sue the gun company for making the gun that they committed the crime with. It's no different than you buying that F-150, driving drunk, killing somebody, and then suing Ford Motor Company for selling you a truck. There's really no difference in it. And this other thing, and I hadn't played this video in a while, but it's a good one to repeat. This idea about these magazines, high-capacity magazines, what they're talking about is basically people hunting and everything like that. And we're going to come back and talk about it. But I want to play Governor Cuomo, who's under a lot of heat, when he talked about, well, you just listen to it, and then we'll come back and check it out.
With a passionate speech on gun violence.
And I say to you, forget the extremists. It's simple. No one hunts with an assault rifle. No one needs 10 bullets to kill a deer.
The governor tried and failed to get...
No one needs 10 bullets to kill a deer. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Cuomo, the Second Amendment is there's jack doodle about hunting. The Second Amendment is not about hunting. Can we put that on the table, please? No one ever talks about this. The Second Amendment has zero to do with hunting. It doesn't matter about killing a deer. You know, it really does. The Second Amendment is about protecting your rights from being overreached by government and other people who would come for you personally and or your property and your family. That is what the Second Amendment. Now, people may not like this. I'm just telling you the fact. The Second Amendment has always been about defending your human person from another human person. Period. It's never been about hunting. It's not about hunting. Now, they try to make it about hunting, but it's not. It is about defending yourself from government tyranny and someone attacking you and or your family and your property. That is what the Second Amendment is about. It's not about hunting. Never has been. And God, of course, now they try to make it. So I started to say never will be, but not as long as, like, you know, people like me are willing to speak out. And you, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. You need to speak out about this and defend the Second Amendment, even if you're not a person who owns a firearm. Because if they can take away our Second Amendment, they can dadgum sure take away all the rest. And that is what they're trying to do. You know, the First Amendment, I think some of these are in order. The First Amendment guarantees your right to freedom of speech, assembly, and religious freedom. But what defends that right against tyranny of government? Could be your Second Amendment. Think about what that famous general in Japan said about trying to attack the United States after Pearl Harbor. He said that wouldn't be possible to invade the United States. Basically, I'm paraphrasing it, because there would be an American behind every tree with a rifle. That's basically what he said. But Biden still lacks a Senate-confirmed Attorney General and Director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, who will play a key role in executive branch action on guns. Now, we're only going to talk briefly about this. That's Merrick Garland, the Obama nominee for the Supreme Court, that now he's going to be the next Attorney General. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. But he's up there right now, and you could throw all these cabinet positions. Even not, I mean, these guys are professional at not answering the question. You know, I mean, you ask these guys what time it is and they tell you how to build a watch. They will never address the question straight up, and he's not going to anyway. And let me say a couple of things about these cabinet positions, just blanket statements. I never even worry about them. Now, I know they have great power in the attorney general. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but basically it's a foregone conclusion. Most presidents get who they pick. The real deal is elections have consequences, and the consequence is we're probably going to have Merrick Garland as the next attorney general, period. Those questions to me don't matter. And they asked him about the Durham report the other day. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about the Durham report. You know why I never really talk about all these possibilities from Lindsey Graham when he was chair of the committee? You know, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I want to see the perp walk. I want to see the shirt over the head. I want to see the hands behind the back as bad as anyone. But it ain't going to happen. It never happens. It never happens, man. You know why? Because the rats don't like to convict the rats. And Washington, D.C. is full of rats on both sides of the aisle, period. And so to me, it doesn't matter who the Biden's pick is. What matters is the fact that Biden and the Democrats have taken over the White House and all the way down to the outhouse. And that's where we are. That's all that really matters. So you don't hear me talk much. Believe me, I'd love to have a show 2 weeks from now, 6 months, or whatever, a year from now, where I go, I was wrong, man. That Durham report came out, and boy, they indicted these people, and they locked her up. I mean, I'd love to say that. I'd be willing to take the bet that it ain't going to happen. White House spokesman Mike Gwynn said during the campaign, the president, talking about Biden, God help us, laid out an ambitious plan to keep our communities safe. And he remains committed to that agenda. Keep our communities safe. I mean, Ben Franklin told us like it is, man. That's why I'm battling ignorance and apathy daily. If we're going to trade safety, which is another word, security, for freedom, we're not going to end up with either one of them. We're going to be a police state, man. I mean, you can't defend your home, but have you seen? They're basically building a fort around the Capitol right now because they're worried about you MAGA hat wearing sons of guns. The discussions come as gun sales have skyrocketed. Remember Big Daddy Unlimited. That's where you need to go. Skyrocketed amid a year of pandemic, quarantines, a summer of racial unrest, and Biden's victory in the presidential election after promising an aggressive push to reduce gun violence. Well, I can tell you one way to reduce gun violence. How about we open up the economy, put kids back in school so people aren't so depressed that they go, like that. That would reduce gun violence by about half right there, wouldn't it? I mean, but they don't even want to talk about that. The year 2020 saw a record number of gun homicides in the United States. Yeah, I wonder why. Why are people, at least they're honest about why people are buying guns. They're not buying guns because they're worried about white supremacists. Let's put it that way. There might be one or two people out there worried about that. Let me ask you, if you recently purchased a gun or you know someone that did, do you know anyone that made a gun purchase because they're worried about the cluckers? Really? Or the Nazis or any of that? I don't know anyone. I saw people lined up around the block looking at guns at Big Daddy's grand opening in Ocala. BDU and Big Daddy Guns are, part of the same entity. I didn't see anybody there that looked to me like, and there were people of all colors, creeds and colors and sexes and lack of sex or whatever. I didn't see anybody there that I thought was there because they were looking over their shoulder for the white hoods to come. I just don't believe that. I believe they're worried about their own safety and the gun grabbing of Joe Biden. But it could be, maybe I'm way off base. It could be because they're worried about mostly peaceful protests. Check this out.
Clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been started, and there's a crowd that is.
I'm sorry, man. But fires have been started. Like there's little campfires, people are like roasting weenies or whatever. The place is burning, and there's multiple videos like this. The place is burning to the ground, but it's mostly peaceful. Oh, by the way, some fires have been started. You talk about misinformation, man. They're worried about, the One American News Network or Fox or JMT here. They're worried about that. When you have MSNBC guy out there as the place is burning down. Oh, some fires were started. I mean, you expect some marshmallows to be going or something, man. Maybe, I'm just saying this, maybe it's possible that people are lining up to buy guns because they know what the truth is, not all the ridiculous BS that people like that are putting out. But said Christian Hain, I guess is how you say name, Vice President of Policy for Brady. Why are all these leftist groups so long? Brady Group, which we talked about earlier, which supports increased firearm restrictions. This is what he said. We have changed state legislatures. We have passed voter referendums. They never stop, these progressives. We have seen the first time in my time in this movement, a Democratic primary where every single candidate was trying to outdo themselves. How much they care about this issue. We do anticipate the momentum will continue to build until we get the change that we desperately need. The translation is the time is right to erase the Second Amendment. That is what they are absolutely saying. Now, erase the Second Amendment. Now, who is the real president? Is it Joe Biden? Because I've been hearing from the background that actually Obama is calling the shots. It's not Kamala Harris. It's actually Obama. And, think about who is appointed to this committee we talked about earlier, this activist group. Susan Rice. She played a big role in Obama. Listen, I want to play this video. You don't hear too much about this, but this is Barack Obama when he was still president talking about the very type of people that we need to worry about. Listen to what he said.
People have been beaten down so long, and they feel so betrayed by government.
Well, it's not surprising then that they get bitter. They cling to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them, or a way to explain their frustrations.
A way to explain their frustration. He's like, what he's talking about? He's talking about Trump supporters before there even were Trump supporters. He's talking about roughly the 75 million people who voted for Donald Trump, even though he didn't know that's who he was talking about. He's talking about what Joe Biden said are the 15% of Americans are just bad people. He's talking about, like I said earlier, about the American flag, man. I mean, think about this. Under the progressive leadership of Obama now into Biden, if you care about the U.S. Constitution, then you're the problem. If you have a different view, period, about any issue than whatever they want you to be in lockstep with, you're a problem. If you're waving any flag other than the flag of surrender, you're the problem. 75 million plus, there's a lot more of that believe in what President Trump pushed for. You see where Romney came out and said if Trump runs again, he's going to win. I don't trust him, but I agree with him on that. But it's Trump supporters that what Obama's talking about there. Clingers to your Bibles and if you believe in the Second Amendment, you're the problem. If you have a religious belief that isn't anti-American, death to America, you are the problem. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Activists are urging the administration to begin dispersing money to 40 cities across the country plagued by gun violence through discretionary agency grants or by declaring a national emergency. It's unbelievable. So there's no emergency at the border, is there? None at all. But there's a national emergency in these 40 cities. How many of these cities are run by Democrats? Would you be willing to bet? I'd say 99.9, if not 100%. I'm just saying that plagued by violence. But what we got to do to correct the violence in our cities is to control legal ownership, law-abiding citizens from having the right to defend themselves. I want to play this video because I can't get enough of Sheriff Judd, man, here in Florida, where he tells you he's got the right solution to gun violence. Check him out.
I have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns. So leave the community alone.
Do we need it? There's how you want to control gun violence, right there. Have an armed citizenry trained on how to defend themselves, and I guarantee you gun violence will drop dramatically. You can take that to the bank. We're about out of time here. I want to quote somebody here. I got to read a little bit from him. His name is Eddie Bokengera. Some of these names are difficult for me. He's the senior director of Progressive Heartline Alliance, and he's out of Chicago chapter. He said he was happy with the audience he received at the White House, but he still expressed frustration with white-led gun control groups. Everything is, good Lord, man. Maybe that's why I'm wearing this camouflage. I'm trying to hide my white. I'm trying to be less white like Coca-Cola wants you to be. But think about this, ladies and gentlemen. I've said this before, but the NRA, the people don't, that's why I battle ignorance and apathy. The NRA was actually, in part, formed to make sure that former slaves who were then American citizens were able to obtain their Second Amendment rights. Did you know that? It's true. Look it up. You don't have to take my word for it. Look it up. But they were white-led, I guess. But this Bokengera said that when it comes to Biden, because he invested a lot of time and energy in electing Biden, he said, I want to see my return on that investment. So, he knows the truth, that Biden is for sale. I tell him, well, if you want to see a return on your investment, maybe you should have got Hunter Biden. Maybe that's who you need to be negotiating with. But let me just tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. If you care about the Constitution, let alone the Second Amendment, you better get truly woke. You better wake up. I hear so many people, I told you, guns were, I didn't even think about the Second Amendment when I was a kid growing up. It was just part of life. I've gotten more into people who own and actively, shoot guns. And I never went to a shooting event, really. A shooting event for us was going hunting or a turkey shoot or just practicing out at the farm. But I've become in contact with a lot of you people out there that are what they call gun enthusiasts, but people that love things like Big Daddy Unlimited and recoil and all that. And I'm with you. But one of the things that amazed me when I got involved at that level was how many people that are, quote, gun enthusiasts, big defenders of the Second Amendment, say they don't want to talk politics. They're not interested in government. And I tell them all the time, well, you may not be interested in government, but you better be, because government is interested in you. And if you don't think that they're trying to come after your guns, remember old Paco Beto. He said it right. Hell yeah. Take them at their word. I tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, progressives cannot be reasoned with, cannot be dealt with, cannot be negotiated with. They can only be defeated. And there is one person out there in this world, in this great United States of America, that they're scared of more than Donald Trump or the NRA or Big Daddy Unlimited, who is now your Second Amendment headquarters. There's one person they fear more than any of that, and it's you, the American people. But if you don't wake up and realize that the entire Constitution is under attack, first, second, whatever amendments you want to look at, the Constitution itself is under attack. If you don't realize that we need to man the political ramparts, because if we don't, we're going to have to man the real ones again, then you better wake up. And that's why I battle ignorance and apathy daily. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page and others. Like it, share it. Remember our sponsors. Check them out. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's pray for this great United States of America, because she needs it and deserves it more than ever. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.